Okay, so we have two sets of bypass pruners. We have one left-handed Felco and one right-handed ARS pruner. Today we're going to clean, sharpen, and oil them, actually just the Felcos. So on these you have an anvil and you have a blade, and we're going to be sharpening only the one surface, which is what you do on a bypass as opposed to on a straight anvil pruner where you would sharpen both sides. So you want to sharpen the beveled edge that's facing away from the anvil. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is clean them, and I'm going to use the ARS cleaner that I bought. It cost $12 and it's available through most horticultural or arborist suppliers, and it's an alkaline liquid detergent, and it contains D-limonene, which is an active ingredient. It's also available in other waterless cleaners like Fast Orange. The D-limonene is what loosens the sap in plant goo. So what you're going to do is you're going to spray it on, and don't let it sit for too long because it'll just evaporate and do nothing, but just a couple of seconds is good. And you can just, whatever's on there, you can wipe it off with a rag. Sap and plant gook will come off with the solvent. Okay. And if your pruners are rusty, these are a little rusty, you can spray them again with the cleaner, and you can use some fine steel wool. Some people say you can use a wire brush, but I think that this is too abrasive and you might abrade the metal. So just use this, and while it's wet you can just kind of gently scrub away any rust on the anvil too. Okay, so they're clean, they're rust free, and now what we're going to do is, well, we're going to start sharpening. So one thing that I read that I thought was really neat suggestion is you can take a marker and you can color the beveled edge on the blade. So that's what I'm going to do here. And that's just to ensure that you're removing the metal evenly and at the right angle. The angle on the Felcos is slightly wider than the angle on the ARS pruners. And I'll show you what I mean. You can use either a file or a stone, but I'm going to use a stone. Stones are supposedly the best thing to use for hardened steel, which is what both of these are. So I have had my stone soaking in water for several hours since it needs to be wet when you're using it. This is an ARS stone, and it's especially shaped so that it'll fit in between the anvil and the blade, like so. And so you don't need to disassemble them. So with a file, if you use a file, you have to be careful to go the same direction with each stroke, but with a stone you can go back and forth along the bevel. Just take as many strokes as you need depending on the condition of your blade, and just make sure that you follow the angle as precisely as possible and apply little or no pressure. So we're going to follow this angle, and you just kind of eyeball it. This blade is not too dull. See how we're trying to match that angle? And I can just go back and forth. Do you see how it's taking off the marking? So I'm not quite getting all of it. But I can always change it up. There we go. That's the angle we want. Go back and forth. That looks good. When it's all shiny, you can kind of inspect it and see how shiny it is and clean looking and sharp. And there might be some burrs on this back side here that you can just clean up with a towel or a rag, or just wipe it gently. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So we'll give it a test cut here. Got a little tester branch. Yeah, it's a nice clean cut. Okay, so I think that's good. And last step would be just to put a finishing oil on them. So here's some machine oil that I have. This is also available at most horticulture or arborist tool suppliers, any place they sell pruners. So you want to just kind of apply it in spots where you have motion, where there's motion. Any place like that. And here, just go crazy. Right down here. Okay. And you just want to work it in. So oil is important for preventing rust and keeping a smooth cutting motion. If you remember when you bought them, they were all oily straight from the factory. So you can also take this guy off if you want. My ARS has a spring instead of this little curled metal, but you can oil this too. Oil and metal are friends. Okay. Pop it back in, and you should be good to go for another season or however long you feel like you need to go. But you know, sharpening really depends on the frequency, depends on how hard you are on them, how often you use them. But yeah, so now we have a nice, even, clean, shiny blade.